All right. Darth, Path of Exile is ruining Diablo 4 for me. Let's get into it.
I've got a problem. I'm an unwashed, disheveled mess. My house needs to be cleaned, and I've ate nothing but fast food for, well, let's be honest, like 3 years, but let's just say the last week. In Diablo 4, my hardcore character is level 74, and I have never purchased anything at all in their microtransaction shop.
All right. I got to say this right off the front here. Diablo 4, the transaction shop, the in-game shop, is probably the worst in-game shop I've ever seen from a AAA title. Just terrible. Like, I mean, I am not inspired to go in there and look at anything ever. And when I do, I'm completely let down. It's just terrible. I don't know who designed it, but they made really bad design decisions when it came to their in-game shop.
Meanwhile, in Path of Exile, I am level 81, and I have purchased the $500 supporter pack.
Whew. Big fan, big fan.
Let's be honest, I have a bit of a problem.
Probably tax write-off, though. Just remember that, guys.
And my problem is there's nothing left to buy at a higher tier. Diablo 4 is currently losing the battle for my attention to a 10-year-old game. And for once, I can say that, and it's not even RuneScape I'm talking about. You might think this is going to be a Diablo 4 bad video, but it's actually kind of the opposite. I mean, there might be a little bit of like, we could use some more content, sure, but I've already talked about that in a million games. Or a million videos. This video is actually about one thing. Path of Exile is so ridiculously fucking good that it's ruining Diablo 4 for me because everything I want in Diablo 4 already exists in the game. And that
Yeah, I remember, like, so I played Diablo 1, Diablo 2. I was waiting for Diablo 3 to come out. Really liked 2, by the way. I had a friend who met his wife in Diablo 2, actually. They would farm items together. That's how they met, I think. And he was in a different country than her. It was awesome. Worked out well. Anyway, we're waiting for Diablo 3 to come out. Diablo 3 comes out. It was terrible. The game itself, like, going through the levels was fine, but they had this in-game shop for real cash. So you could, like, let's say you found a sword, you're like, I want to sell this for real money. You could do that. People did not like that. That did not go over well. It was kind of like a straight up pay to win system for items. And then on top of that, there was zero endgame. Like, I'm talking zero endgame. So it took like Diablo 3, like 2 solid years to become the awesome game that it did become. Maybe a year and a half. Can't remember now, but it took a long time. Diablo 4 is going to take a long time, but I don't have the same faith in Diablo 4 that it's going to be as good because the developer team on Diablo 4, they're just not too intelligent. I don't know, like it seems like they're scatterbrained, like they have um, way too many people working on similar content, and it just all gets discombobulated. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like there's any good coherence to it. Like, I mean, they put all these things in Diablo 4 where you click on them to read paragraphs of text. I'm like, I don't want to read that. I'm not going to read your paragraph of text connected to a pot on a table. Get out of here. And then they have those moments in the game where it like stops you and you look at the epic design of the dungeon as if they think you're going to take a screenshot of a big hallway that's the same tile set throughout the whole thing. And you're like, yeah, no, I don't know who's on the dev team for Diablo 4 and how many people are involved within it, but it's too many. I installed Diablo 3 just to compare because I was playing a barbarian on veteran on Diablo 4 and it felt terrible. So, like, just for context, right now it's around August 27th, 2023. So I'm going to say around August 10th, maybe August 1st to 10th. Playing a barb on veteran in Diablo 4 felt terrible. It was like a grind fest. Like, you would literally die in the open world. You don't even know what killed you. It was bad. It was really bad. Your abilities felt terrible. Your fury generation was terrible. Now it's August 27th. It's starting to feel a little bit better. Like, I mean, you start to feel like you have some power with your character. But the game design itself and the gameplay is still lacking, like so discombobulated compared to D3. Anyway, I installed Diablo 3 And the art style on Diablo 3, like with the pop-up and the character text, and was so much better designed. They had such a better team on Diablo 3, and I think they were really focused and they were really on the same page with each other. I think on Diablo 4, the problem they had is they had, like, let's say, I'm just going to use the number 12. Let's say they had 12 people working on one dungeon or whatever, and they all had different things that they wanted to achieve. And it feels like there was no unity. There was no like let's seek this design goal, this parameter, this vision, this artistic vision for the game. It feels like the artistic vision for the game is lacking. You know, and when the Diablo 4, right from the first cutscenes in the game, they went darker, much darker than any other Diablo that has ever come around, and it achieved absolutely nothing. It was pointless. There was no need to go that dark in the game, but they did, and it was like I was watching those cutscenes. I'm like, this is actually kind of unnecessary. In all the other Diablo games, they were able to accomplish epic storytelling without resorting to. It's kind of like when you watch a movie that just resorts to gratuitous amounts of gore, and not in a B-rated movie kind of way, but in like they're trying to be serious. It's just like, eh. Anyway,
That game is Path of Exile. I've been live streaming the game every day, and I'll have that in the pinned comment in the description. But every day, I think this is going to be my last day live streaming this game. But then I'll discover some new major mechanic, some new in-game piece of content, something new that's just truly really awesome. And I'm like, okay, well, let me just see what that's about. And I'm going to try to explain some of those mechanics to you now. Before you think I'm just a giant show for the game, this is not sponsored. Path of Exile not sponsor this video in any way. In fact, it should be a reverse sponsorship or whatever you guys want to call it, because very often people are telling me that I have to be promoting Diablo 4 or else my channel is going to die.
I don't know who tells this guy that if he stops with Diablo 4, his channel is gonna die. It's like when they say to Ninja, you better play Fortnite or your channel's gonna die. Like Ninja went through a period of time during COVID where he grinded this game called Final Fantasy, I think it was 11, and it was a game that you couldn't get anymore and you couldn't play anymore. I think it was a private server, and I really wanted to try it too because I was like an old school MMO player, and it looked like the type of grindy MMO that I would enjoy. But anyway, long story short, his viewers take a hit for that, and sometimes he'll talk about that. He'll be like, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't have grinded that game for as long as I did." And yeah, that's true. But if you're playing a game that people have easy access to and you're actually enjoying it and you're playing with your friends or by yourself and you're having a blast and your chat's involved, there's not going to be any problem. I've watched so many streamers over the last several years that have, explored different games, and it's kind of like a fun side journey for the channel, right? And yeah, sometimes they'll have their main game that they come back to, but quite often those main games get left behind for new games. So yeah, I wouldn't sweat it too much. I'm sure this guy isn't really sweating it that much because he's still grinding it as much as he wants.
Diablo 4 is literally in the name of the channel, and I'm out here, unfortunately, praising its competitor because it's kind of just that good. Let's start with stash tabs. There's currency stash tabs for all the different currencies. You can craft directly within the stash tabs, all of the different maps, because yes, maps in this game are basically nightmare dungeons that you decide how they work. You can craft your own map with your own specifications, rare maps, common maps, unique maps with all kinds of different modifiers on them. Oh, and speaking of maps, there's actually a whole section of maps called the Atlas, which is basically another skill tree that allows you to modify them.
That's a skill tree. That blows my mind. I played Path of Exile a few times. One of the things I do not like about Path of Exile, and this is just a strictly technology limitation, is it doesn't run really well on mid-tier systems. And I have a mid-tier system. My system will run most games exceptionally well, but for some reason on Path of Exile, even though it's super smooth, and every once in a while I'll get this little jitter lag, and it's a video issue. It's not internet based. And I've got a decent NVIDIA card. I've got 16 gigs of RAM. I got an i5 processor, and it still has this little jitter every once in a while. And can't stand that on action RPGs, and I just won't play it. However, I would love to see Path of Exile come to the Xbox X. Like, I'm serious. I would really like to see that happen. I would love to play this on a controller on an Xbox X. Or, like, I mean, if they could optimize their graphics better, and get this running smoother on mid-tier systems, that would be much more appreciated. I don't know what it is. It just something happens. Anyway, the depth and breadth of this game, it's 10 years old or whatever, so it's definitely got a lot of that. And Path of Exile 2 should be an interesting launch as well.
Maps further to have the exact encounters you want. And all of this might actually seem extremely complicated. And as we dive more into why Path of Exile is sort of ruining Diablo for me, yes, it is complicated. But here's the great thing about it: it's not overwhelmingly complicated unless when you're just looking at it for the first time, you decide to quit. In my previous video, I talked about the graph about how people play like 2 minutes and then instantly quit the game. If you only look at the next step in front of yourself in this game and you don't purposely try to know everything in the game, you just try to know the next thing, you actually don't get that overwhelming feeling. So try to stay with.
I don't even think you have to purposely force yourself to learn everything. I think with Path of Exile, when I played it, I just focused on my character and the immediate skills on that tree that I could explore and try. That's it. I didn't try to like map out these big epic talent lines or anything like that. I think that just comes with time and experience.
Me why I explain this. So instead of nightmare dungeons, you're basically crafting your own nightmare dungeon, and each version of the nightmare dungeon has its own mini game. For instance, I like the mini game that allows me to do a tower defense mode, so I'm doing that. But they have like a Batman detective sort of mini game. They have a monster, a build your own Frankenstein type of mini game. They have essentially these versions of what are nightmare dungeons in this game that allow you to make them any way you want.
That's cool. That sounds really fun.
Which is just an astounding way of doing the late game mapping. To give you one more example, for instance, I don't do very much damage, but I'm extremely tanky. So I took the perk that makes it when I'm doing the maps, again, maps are basically dungeons. When I'm doing the maps, the monsters deal more damage, but they have less life. So it's an exchange that's good for me because I'm tanky, but I don't do a lot of damage. You also have their version of player-owned housing in this game. It's called a hideout that, guess what? You can fully optimize however you want. I have my own map station, which is basically the Nightmare Dungeon teleporter I can go to.
You know, it's really sad and pathetic if you think about it. Is that Diablo 4, the team, when they started working on Diablo 4, however long ago they started working on it, even when the D3 team was working on D3, they saw all of the amazing things that Path of Exile was accomplishing in the ARPG market. And plot spoiler, I believe, I think, let me just double check here, but I believe that Path of Exile came from, I probably just Path of Exile. I'm pretty sure that the Path of Exile game came from the engine of Diablo 2. Let's see. It was released 2013. Oh, do they have it on Xbox One? I'll have to check. I've never actually looked on my Xbox. Okay. Gameplay, blah, 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 leagues, setting, plot, development. Okay, so when a small group of action role-playing game enthusiasts became frustrated by the lack of new releases, genre, decided to develop their own game, blah, blah, blah. Team drew inspiration from several earlier games, including Diablo series, particularly Diablo 2. Maybe they built their own engine. I thought they were using something from Diablo 2. Oh, maybe they just took big inspiration from Diablo 2. Alright, anyway.
to. I have my own crafting station. I have place I can buy and sell all of.
Oh, but what I was going to say, sorry about that, is I was going to say the Diablo team saw the amazing development of Path of Exile over the years and literally did nothing to improve Diablo. Nothing. In fact, at the end of the major 10-year development of Path of Exile and all the amazing things that that accomplished, Diablo came out with a mobile game called Diablo Immortal. I still remember that announcement at BlizzCon. It was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. It was just terrible. And all of these cool things, the Diablo team could have implemented kind of their take on the mechanic or their Diablo version of it or something. I've always thought it would be amazing to have an MMO, like a massive online game, utilizing the Diablo engine with PvP. Like I'm talking open world PvP, like the old Ultima Online, where you could literally, if you're outside of a safe zone, it's open season, man. Someone can come up and just gank you and take your stuff. I always thought that that would be such a fun MMO to play. You could have housing, you could have all kinds of stuff, but Diablo just didn't do that. In fact, they've regressed. They've actually created a game that's worse than their previous game. Diablo 4 is not as good as Diablo 3. It's getting better, but like I said at the beginning, I don't know if it's gonna get as good
The
ever.
goods I want, I can hit edit right here and go and put down all of the different vendors. I can have all of my different cosmetics if I want it to look like whatever I want. And even if I don't really like this place that much, there is a ton of different hideouts I could actually change it to make it look completely different depending upon the environment I want. And these hideouts I can either purchase from microtransactions, which I have, or you can actually find these. You see how this says found in map, found in Act 2, found in Act 5. A lot of these you just play the game and you discover them, and now they are unlocked forever for you. I just wanted to show you how cool this crafting is if someone hasn't seen it before. Here's an unidentified rare chest plate, okay? So I can identify it and says, oh, it's got fire resistance, physical damage reduction, armor, and strength,
Diablo 2 throwback, Scroll of Identity.
for instance. But let's say I didn't like this, and you'll notice that there's sockets, which are basically where you put your skills. And it seems like it's complicated, but you just have to trust me. It's really not that bad once you get into it. So you put your chest plate here, and let's say I decide I like this chest plate base.
Pretty sure Diablo, our Blizzard created the sockets in video games too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the earliest sockets I can remember are from the Diablo series and from World of Warcraft, and I can't remember what expansion they came out in. It was the expansion that came out with jewel crafting. But I'm pretty sure Blizzard was the first AAA company to come up with that idea.
But I don't really necessarily like all of the stats on it. You can scour it, which now makes it a common item again, and now I just have the piece back, okay? Then you can put quality on it, which improves the overall quality of it. So now it's a plus 20%, which is the maximum. Then I could roll it rare if I wanted to see, oh, I got a good rare or a bad rare. If I didn't like the rare I got, now I can re-roll this rare again in order to try to get a rare one I like. Now I get a rare piece that I really like. Let's say 31 code resistance, okay?
That's pretty sick. Lots and lots of customization there.
But I didn't actually get on that code armor.
Skip past
Rare
that.
is a actual it, so I can take it to the crafting bench and I can put, you know what? I think I'm going to put maximum life on this guy. So I was able to craft a piece of gear that feels amazing, that basically has everything I want on it. And if it doesn't have the ability for me to actually have the colored skills that I want because skills match a color socket, I can go in here and I can reforge the number of sockets. I can reforge the color of the socket. Basically what I'm trying to explain to you, it's probably overwhelming if you are a Diablo person and don't understand what I'm talking about. What I'm trying to say to you is Path of Exile has everything that I wanted out of Diablo 4, which is easy to search stash, tons of repeatable in-game content, and I can customize it the way I want. It's got items that allow me.
People that have been playing Diablo and Path of Exile have been saying these kind of things for years. And the Blizzard team does not care. They just don't care. Okay, it's time to tell you a Blizzard story. The time that Blizzard showed me that they could care less about their customer base. So it was Burning Crusade had been released. I was an OG WoW player and bought Burning Crusade. Really enjoyed it. It's freaking awesome. One of the best MMOs ever created at the time. And they had this quest line where you went to these islands. I can't remember where they were. And you did this series of quests to unlock, I think they were called Nether Drakes or something. And at the end of this quest line, you got to race this leader. And if you were able to beat the leader, you got this trinket. And this trinket would allow you to move 10% faster on your mount. The amount of time and effort it took to complete that storyline and that quest line to get that trinket was pretty crazy. Like you had to really focus on it and invest on it. So I did that. I beat it. I was so happy. Then Wrath of the Lich King came out, and right away they made that trinket unusable in Wrath of the Lich King. They're like, nope, you just can't use it anymore. And I'm like, that showed me just what kind of company they were because they're like, they knew how long it took to get that trinket and what kind of time was required to finish those quests and how many, times you had to kind of like grind through that race or whatever to figure it out. They knew and they couldn't care less. They're just like, oh, sorry. Like I was like, why would you do that? Like, what game-breaking mechanic are we talking about here? If my ground mount or my air mount can fly 10% faster than somebody else's, nothing. You're not breaking anything. You can make it like not usable in PvP or something like that. It just made no sense. But it showed me very clearly that they did not give one iota about their player base. So that was rough. But anyway, they've been listening to the Path of Exile requests for years. They're going to listen to this guy here, Darth, and they're going to be like, yeah. And they're not going to care. They're not going to implement anything.
Me to make an item exactly like I wanted with an intuitive crafting system, and you get the currencies for crafting from just playing the end game, so you can actually sort of build your own item. Speaking of items, the itemization in the game is literally insane. The depth of which you can have things is absolutely nutty in this game. Like if I go and look at this, plus 1% increased attack damage per 450 armor. So I'm just stacking as much armor as I can get on all my pieces and to increase my attack damage. And that just happens to be one of the things that...
Okay, I got to find out right now. I didn't think this was available on Xbox X. Okay, it is. I'm going to install that today then. I'm going to give it a shot on the Xbox X.
One of the items do. But there's like 1,000 unique items. I think it's actually 850 unique items are in the game. And so there's all kinds of different ways you can build this. It might seem overwhelming because it sort of is. But in an ARPG where what you want is the capability to build unique builds, have styles that you feel attached to, or the ability to have an in game that is so in depth that you can put hours into it, you need the ability for it to feel overwhelming. It feels overwhelming because there's a lot to do.
And lots of good games are overwhelming. Like Warframe. I don't play a lot of Warframe. I did for a while. It was, as a new player, you get into Warframe and you're like, what the heck am I doing? What's going on? What am I supposed to do? Destiny 2, there's another one. You get in there and you're like, I have no idea the complexities that I'm looking at. New MMOs back in the day, like Asheron's Call, things like that. Like you would log in and you'd be like, I have no idea. But that was part of the fun, right? That's figuring it out. Now there's a fine line between making that a fun process and making that like an instant uninstall. And certain dev teams can get that, certain dev teams can't. So, for example, complexity for complexity's sake isn't going to cut it. But artistic complexity in a system that's been really cared for and designed from the ground up, that'll fly for sure.
And you know what you want in a game? A lot to do. Even the healing potions in this game have their own abilities. You can modify your healing potions to have different bonuses. For instance, my healing potion stops me from burning.
Even TD Bloons has things where you don't know how to do, and then it's kind of fun when you figure them out. You know what I mean? And TD Bloons 5 and 6 are phenomenal games to kill a little bit of time.
removes ignite. It also stops me from bleeding and removes corrupted blood, which are sort of the same things. My cat in the background lets me know when she wants to go outside. Fine, I'm coming. I'm sorry I haven't made the video on Diablo in like 3 days. It's because this game has continually been sucking me in. The more I play this game, the more I uncover. And every time I uncover something, there's another thing telling me, well, did you try this yet? And most of the time the answer to that is no, I haven't tried this yet, which is an amazing thing for a game like this because
I never even put A and B together that his channel was named after Diablo 4, but his Twitch is Darth Microtransaction. Every time he's talked about how he's got to play Diablo 4, I never really clicked on that. But I can see that now, that he's got a YouTube channel that's popped off for a game that he's got a lot of issues with, and he's having a lot of fun in other games. So what's a creative solution to that? I have no idea. Yeah, that's tough. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's tough. Does it matter what the YouTube channel is called? Like, I mean, in the long run, is the audience gonna really get upset if you post other content on there? That's a good question. I know some people have multiple YouTube channels for different things. Maybe a general channel launch and then work it up. I don't know. That's tough. That's a dilemma I never even thought about. So I kind of empathize now a little bit with what he's talking about when he's like, yeah, people want me to post Diablo 4 content, otherwise they're not going to watch my channel. However, if we take a look at his channel for a quick second, let's see. Videos. So this one's got 200 and almost 20K, 115K, 109K. So his Path of Exile videos are actually popping off much more than his Diablo videos. So yeah, I think the audience here is ready to go with you on a journey. But it's still, I get it though. I get it because it's DM Diablo 4. DM Diablo 4. I get it now. Crazy banner. That's awesome.
there's so much content to absorb. I could play this for a very long time.
I wonder how many subs did he have? Like, let's see, 263K. Maybe now's the time to just do it and make a general channel and utilize this channel to start bringing people over to sub to the new channel and have the new channel more of like a version of your personality, yourself, like your channel where you can post literally anything you want game-wise from any game. You can post anything you want from your kitchen or from vlogging or whatever. Maybe that's the play.
So if you've been wondering where I've been the last few days and why I haven't uploaded, it's because I've been playing Path of Exile, a 10-year-old ARPG that is actually just a phenomenal game. I mean, I understand.
Yeah, I'm going to install it today. I got so many things I got on the go right now. Like I've got my WoW Hardcore I need to start after my Overwatch Invasion event is complete, which I got to grind after this. But yeah, I think I'm going to put that on the console. And I still want to finish some things in D4. So I'll probably finish that first before I dive into Path of Exile. Because Path of Exile, it feels like to me like that's a game you'd have to kind of sit at, think about, explore, really wrap your head around and not be, too focused on other things.
Understand why people were talking about this, and I wanted to make a video shilling for the game for a moment because I think you might actually enjoy it. If you've played Diablo 4, you're waiting for Season 2 because you're bored, you're like me, you might actually end up having a higher level character in Path of Exile by the time Season 2 comes out than your Diablo 4 character because you might get sucked in just as bad as I did. To put it simply, the more you know about Path of Exile, the more you realize you don't know, which means there's more content to do.
All right, I'm sold on it. I'm going to try it out again. I think the rest of the video is probably on that thread. Anyway, thanks for checking out the video. Please post your comments and thoughts about the video below. And if you haven't yet, please hit that sub button and the notification bell. And as always, life quest for you. Find a local Catholic parish in your community. Go there and ask about RCIA and say, hey, what's this RCIA thing about? And let the priest talk to you about RCIA. And get in there and change your life. Follow Jesus and follow in his church that he's had for 2,000 years. And he declared in the Bible that the gates of hell would never prevail against that church. And it hasn't to this day, although the enemy attacks it from the inside and out relentlessly. It's still there. It's still there for you and for your family. All right, take care. We'll see you next time.